Welcome. I'm happy to have you join us. I will be sharing top underlying issues to why systems are still being breached and hacked today. Global spending on cybersecurity have been increasing for years, and there are many projections in the areas such as cybersecurity awareness, technology advancement, and developing and training new talents. However, it's not uncommon to hear organizations of all sizes being breached, and in fact, the stakes from these risks are getting higher as digitalization continues to accelerate. Today, I will be going through technicalities or security tools and risk frameworks. I will be sharing the 6 common organizational practices that can lead to cybersecurity breaches. I will even touch on about white elephants that nobody really talks about. Before I go on, I am Saeed Atabaki from TrustWave Spider Labs. We are a team of ethical hackers, threat hunters, researchers, digital forensics, and incident responders that serves a global network of clients. My specialty is on running attack simulations to test an entire organization's defenses, identify gaps, and upskill their security team in the process. I started programming and picked up cybersecurity since the age of 9, where the past 16 years I've focused on offensive security and have worked with clients from all sizes. Now, the 6 points I will be touching on today are the practices that are not intended to affect security. Let's start with the first on the list, IT security as a form of compliance. Let's begin by looking at the intentions of conducting security tests. According to our analysis, globally, 34% of clients initiates security tests to assess their defenses proactively, and the majority conducts security tests to comply with regulations. 66% of the time, these tests are done to satisfy compliances. And in Asia, the trend is similar. 82% or 8 out of 10 tests are conducted with the intention to satisfy compliance. The first issue is a mindset issue. While there are more investment in security testing, the intention is to fulfill the compliance and regulatory needs. While it's important to meet compliance goals, security does not stop there. This fundamental misalignment in mindset can often lead to differences in security learning, prioritization of fixes, and even management decision-making. Compliance alone is not security. While there is nothing wrong about security beginning with compliance, the goal of security does not end at compliance. Security is not only for satisfying the external requirement or a third party's need, but it's to secure your organization's environment and ecosystem continuously and proactively. The second underlying issue is on employee KPI. Employee KPIs is about goal setting and productivity. While cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, the responsibilities can come in different forms for different roles. What if the employees' KPI are misaligned and not truly encouraging security? The impact is obvious. There can be negative effects to security. In our course of work, we have encountered various clients around the world who attempt to delay penetration tests, created hindrances that slows the progress and even fail the target systems in order to receive penetration test results that identify their system as safe. Instead of demonstrating the true vulnerabilities associated with the system, the employees who initiated the tests are more interested in passing the test. We interviewed these groups of end-user employees and learned that their goal for security testing were misinterpreted or misaligned at KPI setting. When vulnerabilities are discovered, their performance rating would be negatively affected. Hence, this group of employees were defensive against security testing and in some cases attempt to obstruct or reduce the quality of penetration tests. Unfortunately, this is not a one-off or a rare scenario. The issue of misaligned employee KPIs is not uncommon among the global community of expert testers. To me, when an organization invests in expert security testing, it shows the desire to uncover gaps that are unknown to them. However, employee KPIs, when misaligned, can be obstructive and affect the actual learning and mitigation from the security report. The next point I'm going to share with you is about budget, responsibility, and scope, regional versus global cost center. Like the previous point I had covered, the fundamental issues within an organization are not designed with the intention to stop cybersecurity. Let me elaborate this point further and share how the structure of cost center can unwittingly affect cybersecurity. The issue, separation of cost centers, can lead to incomplete security assessments. An organization's IT ecosystem typically has many systems, assets, and users, and this can get even more complex when it operates across different countries. I've been part of numerous penetration tests and red team operations by multinational organizations, and the client who approached us was responsible for offices or assets from a region or a country, a subset of an entire organization. Now, the issue comes when the client specifically asks to have our scope to exclude assets in all other countries. The scope of these tests was then limited to the specific region or country the client was in charge of, and the goal for us was to breach its IT environment. But does the adversaries care about the segregation and malwares limited by geographical boundaries? They don't. Cyber criminals target the entire organization. When we ask for permission to run simulated attack across the entire organization in order to breach the client assets, we sometimes were able to obtain the permission. And of those times, we were able to uncover vulnerabilities on those assets that were initially excluded. The very assets that could be exploited to affect the specific offices in the region or countries the client was responsible for. All these meaningful discoveries would not have been uncovered if we had not insisted to extend our scope. Unfortunately, there are still many cases where the security responsibility and scopes are limited by segregation of cost centers. That's why this remains a fundamental issue when cyber criminals often look at the entire organization as only entity to attack. Cybersecurity is an organizational issue to tackle as a whole. Cybersecurity is not only regional or country-based. Certification misconception. To address the global talent shortage in cybersecurity, many courses and industry certifications are being offered today. It's no secret that cybersecurity certification as an industry has been developing. However, not all certifications are the same. When purchasing cybersecurity services, some buyers may not be familiar with the certification. And to make things worse, the service providers are not giving complete information about the certification they hold. We have seen service providers with basic industry certification advertising as an advanced attack specialist. Let's examine the current industry certifications with more information. Firstly, there are not many CREST or offensive security exploitation experts around the world. As you can see, there are less than 5,000 CPSA certified in the world. Secondly, having an CPSA or OSCP certification does not mean the person is qualified to execute advanced simulated attacks. Remember, it's not only about blindly executing attacks. When we conduct an advanced simulated attack to test the defenses, it's very important not to cause disruption to the organizational day-to-day activities while we test. You may be thinking right now, is there a difference in skill set? The answer is yes. We did an interesting experiment last year. where we assign the same application with the same scope to two different testers. One tester with years of experience and holder of CREST highest advanced certification, and the second tester with CREST entry-level certification. The result is quite interesting. Let's take a look at what our entry-level tester managed to uncover. You may think that the application fared pretty well, and our experienced tester discovered many more. In both tests, vulnerabilities at high and medium categories are uncovered, and there was even a critical vulnerability in one of the tests. Basically, they had the exact same scope of work, but the junior tester was not able to uncover the more elusive threats. The fifth common organizational practice that can affect cybersecurity is incorrectly scoping of security tests, which limits the outcome. The scoping is not solely the responsibility of the client, but what clients can do is avoid introducing a limit too early. Let me explain by showing you an example. This example is taken from one of our previous projects. Before we work on the project, the report from another vendor covered this much in their finding. Our Spider Labs consultant was then tasked to work for the same client and uncover a lot more in the report, as you can see on your right. There can be more than one reason that leads to this difference, but from the client's feedback, one key reason is how Spider Labs approached this. As much as possible, we do not put a limit to the test scope, but only because we are very clear of the goals. Before conducting the test, our Spider Labs consultant studied the target platform and advised the client to extend the scope. This example shows the extent of a meaningful security test with the client willingness to lift the limitations. And if you are a client, you may want to consider getting your tester to prepare the scope or challenge you to get the most of the security testing. The sixth common organizational practice can be the trickiest to address. The previous points I've covered are about practices that affects the test scope due to the differences in cost centers, misconceptions in security certifications, and realigning the intent of conducting security tests. The last point of today's presentation, vendor selection, is based on how buyers have the tendency to select security vendors based on price alone. I will address this point by making you more informed about the cost of a security professional so that you know what you will be paying for. For the next few slides, I'm going to base it on an imaginary company. Let's call it Said Private Limited. And we calculate its financials, profit margin, and eventually the price to charge for the company to sustain. In my imaginary company, we will look from the standpoint of a security service provider and how much it costs to hire a security consultant. According to Indeed.com, a source of salary estimations, the average annual salary of a security consultant is $115K. To calculate the estimated costs, we have a security consultant that draws $115K salary. There will be additional training costs, office rentals, operational costs such as HR, marketing, finance staff. So in conclusion, the total cost is estimated at $258K. To project my earning goals, I consider 1 year has 221 work days. Employee utilization is at 75%, and the target profit margin is at 30%, which is a typical rate for a growing company. With this cost and considering target profit margin, I need to price our services at $1,850 for a day. I went through an imaginary company, but I hope its projections can be used to help you when you are evaluating a vendor in the near future. This calculation is to draw a baseline in our industry, especially in Southeast Asia where rates vary a lot. A reputable company that generates many kinds of research every year and hosts a team of skilled penetration testers This rate is the bottom line to survive. Global investments in cybersecurity have increased over the year, but breaches are still happening. There is no quick fix to advanced security posture, and it's common for anyone and everyone to gain blind spots after some time. I hope today's sharing of 6 common organizational practices that accidentally affect cybersecurity can be informative and meaningful to you. It's my pleasure to share with you on behalf of Synctel and TrustWave. Thank you.